Stop leaving your windows open if you want love. Iana Van Zant said something that stopped me in my tracks, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said, boundaries are the protective lines of self respect. I was like, yo, that was deep for me. That hit home. That hit home. I realized that the most spiritual, the most valuable thing that you can do for yourself and the people around you is to have some self respect. But what represents this self respect? What is the police of this self respect? Is boundaries. What is boundaries exactly? Because I used to have beef with boundaries. I thought people with too many boundaries was stuck up. I thought people with too many boundaries. I looked at boundaries as walls, right? Like the walls that the government puts up to keep people out. I looked at boundaries as punishment to others who are different, a practice of being a separatist. But I realized as I went through my healing journey, which took some time, I'm not going to lie, it took some time for me to realize that what boundaries were. Boundaries is none of those things, right? Like, I mean, boundaries represent a wall to me, but not a wall to keep people out. It more so represents architecture. And I'm going to explain why. Imagine a house, right? Some houses have gates, some don't. Some houses have fences, whatever. But let's say this house has a gate. And some houses are overly protected, and like cul-de-sacs or whatever, we have to go through security, then you go through the gate, and then you get to the door, so on and so forth. Now you at the door. The door has a doorknob and has a lock. I can't get through this door unless I'm a thief, and then that's already a problem. Or an intruder, or I can get through the door by knocking because I need access, or if I have a key. But that is me having what? Access. The house also has windows, right? Numerous windows. And these windows should have a lock, something to keep the windows closed, either and then protected. So, like screens, bars, everything, so on and so forth. Once I've gotten in the house, whether I have a key or the owner of that house lets me in, anywhere else that I want to access within that house probably also has doors. But the house is beautiful. And the reason why the house is beautiful and clean is because the person who owns this house limits who and what has access to it. Imagine now if the house had open windows all the time. If this house always kept its windows open, there would be dust from outside, the dirt of outside, maybe critters flying in, insects, spiders, all types of stuff. And it'd be harder and harder and harder to clean the more windows that are open. On top of that, imagine if the doors was open. Now I'm not worried only about rodents, critters, insects, and dust and cleaning my house, but I'm worried about unwanted intruders. I'm worried about theft. I'm worried about should I buy something valuable in this home because I have no way of locking it up and keeping it protected, right? But if I do have a house with locks on my windows, locks on the doors, I purchase valuable things and decorate that home in a representation of my identity and values. And that is the way that you should look at boundaries, the architecture of your identity, the architecture of your self respect. I want to tell you like a story of different forms of when people lack boundaries. I've learned for the past, since 2006, that I'm a pescatarian. And I've been around people with chicken. I've been around people with all types of meat to cook, and it smells great, but I don't want to eat it. I realized what that meant for my identity. And it's just the respect that I have for my body and my values as to why I have a particular diet. But that doesn't mean that my diet for my body is for me to omit or disrespect others who don't share the same values, right? I'm okay with food being in my house, but I'm not okay with being fed it. So if someone feeds me that without telling me, without my knowledge, then they've disrespected my boundary, right? It's ways to look at how to implement boundaries and see what it is. See, I used to think that people with too many boundaries were square. I thought that they were rude. I thought that they were jerks. I thought they were selfish. I didn't realize at that time that boundaries was the highest form of self love. It wasn't me going out with my homegirls on girls' trips. It wasn't me going shopping, listening to my favorite music, sitting in the park, writing in my journal, going to the spa. It wasn't any of that. Those are practices of self love, right? These things are all wonderful, but the deepest act The strongest act of self love is actually knowing what you will and won't allow in your home. That is actual self love. And remember, your home is here, right? And how do you find what what you will and will not want to allow? You have to feel and experience disrespect to know what it feels like to never want it again, to also know what it feels like to have it. And here's the paradox: when you have real boundaries, you actually are now able to love people more freely. You're able to identify what it looks like to feel love. You're not running and self sabotaging real love because you're not in an everyday practice of disrespect for yourself. You're actually in the everyday practice of loving yourself. Therefore, when real love is right there, it doesn't suffocate. It doesn't make you feel resentful for it. You don't sabotage it and run from it because you're afraid of it. You actually acknowledge it because you know it, because it's part of your practice for self. That is the beauty and the beginning that boundaries starts to give you. That is the journey that boundaries put you on. If you think about it, you're loving freely now because you're no longer loving from a place of depletion. You're loving from a place of fullness. That fullness is what allows you to attract full love, full, free, and healthy love. What I've learned with boundaries for me is that boundaries can help you in all ships, relationships, situationships, linky, sneaky link ships, friendships, family ships, all the ships. Because the thing is that the same person getting on the ship, and that's you. I learned a long time ago that I kept attracting the same type of person or the same type of energy with the same type of lesson. Because I wasn't comfortable with practicing self respect. When I started practicing self respect, the no got stronger. The no began having a period behind it and becoming a complete final sentence. Boundaries is growth because it requires you to know yourself, know who you are, know your values, know what you want and don't want. You cannot have a real boundary on something that you haven't examined. So it's okay if you've made the mistakes. It's okay if you're like, oh man, I keep dating the same person, or I keep falling into toxic situations, or I keep staying at the same job and accepting this low pay and this disrespect. It's all right. You have to examine what you don't want. Remember, to say I won't accept disrespect, you have to first experience disrespect. You have to know what it feels like in your body and understand that you don't like it. This is when you say no more and you refuse and you walk away, you know that the inner work has started. These things take time. But once you've gotten to a point where you're like, I feel this, I'm listening to my body, I'm accepting this information, and I'm going to do what's right to make sure I feel good. Remember that this inner work takes time, it takes discipline, it takes practice, but it is a spiritual reward at the end. So what does this look like, right? Like, not theory or anything like that, but what does this look like when you really say, I'm going to stay 10 toes on my boundaries? It looks like saying to someone who has been disrespecting your boundaries is say, hey, I love you, but I can't talk about this right now. Or no, right? And you don't explain. And in the end, you won't explain yourself. Boundaries look like charging for your time, your rate, your price, getting that salary you deserve, getting that client, a high ticket client that you deserve, telling that client that this is what I charge. And when you're ready, just reach out and be okay with that. Think about it. You're not going to sit here and offer your house for free all the time. You got utility bills. Somebody in there you have an occupant staying in your spot and they using up all the water and electricity, the electric bill, the water bill, the trash company, all those people are not caring. They're going to charge you anyway. So it's not free. So think about your time and your space and your capacity, and all that is worth something. Boundaries is saying, hey, this is my worth. I'm charging for it. However, which way you choose fit. Boundaries looks like stepping back from that uncomfortable relationship. The person who makes you feel like you're shrinking yourself. The person you know that you both are not each other's type. You're not compatible, but yet you keep trying. The person whom you've told, hey, I need space, or I need this, or I need this and that, and they've never respected the boundaries that you've set. This is time to step away from it. Why? Because that's not love, that's renovation. You are not a fixer-upper. Your house was good before they came. Trust and remember that. And if not, thank you for the lesson. Now I know I need to putty up that wall. You can go. Boundaries also looks like getting quiet enough to listen to your own internal yes, your own internal no, before someone else rushes you to the answer that they need at that time. Boundaries also looks like taking space and truly taking that space for yourself and sitting alone with your thoughts and not allowing anyone or anything to tell you that you need to speak when you're not ready. And here's the thing, when you're around the right people who are actually good for your energy, they will knock on your door. They will call you when they come into your house. You will probably already give them the key or they already have the access code. And even then, they'll still let you know that, hey, I'm stopping by. And even when they're in your house, they'll take them shoes off. They'll make sure they respect all the beautiful, valuable furniture you have in there and not cause any ruckus. Those are the right people that you are allowing in because they respect your architecture. So I'm gonna just ask you one thing, and honestly, I'll say this now. I preface this. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm somebody who read a lot to heal a lot because I went through a lot. And these are things and practices that I've learned that help me. And I'm literally just making this content because I hope somebody looks at it and can actually get help. I spent a lot of time giving advice to friends that probably should have called therapists, but they actually found a way to heal. I'm just tired of being the one to take on everyone else's energy. I'd rather just make a video and send it to you at this point. Okay, I'm gonna ask you one question before we go. And you can leave it in the comments below or just write it in your journal. But I think it's good to write it to kind of reflect. What is just one boundary? Just one. It doesn't have to be multiples. But this is one boundary that you need to rebuild or build right now in your life, right now. Write it in the comments, like I said, or put it in your journal, but make sure you write it to yourself. You owe it to yourself, not me. And just in that moment, look back at it every now and then and remind yourself of what you're trying to build because it's time to build the right home, the safe home for you. If you like this video, please share, comment, subscribe. My content is going to talk about all things that helps me in life. If some of it resonates, if some of it don't, hey, just be here for the ride. Remember that you don't have to explain it. You just have to name it. So if you like this content, please subscribe, comment, share, and I'll see you at the next one.